Do we need to wait for the chat to confirm? We may or may not be live right now.
So that might be the ticket, and then if I could just do the technical precautions.
Yeah.
I'm like deathly allergic to it. Like, it's bad. Like even if it's just like in the air.
Oh yeah. It's really bad right now. So just heads up on the trails.
I'm just gonna stay on the really wide trails. And it should be okay. Or the roads maybe.
I think we need somebody in the chat to just let us know if we're live or not. This is our trademark live stream. Working out of the bugs is we're not necessarily sure whether we're live or not. So if we are, drop a note.
That's Travis. Travis is in the chat.
Travis, are we live, buddy?
Yeah, we're live.
Okay.
Nice.
All right.
Hello.
We can pause our conversation about Poison Oak. We'll get back to that in a little bit. And welcome to our international viewing audience here, broadcasting from the heart of Auburn, California, the endurance capital of the world, before the 2024 Canyons by UTMB. My name is Dylan Bowman, joined by an awesome group of co-hosts here this afternoon. Hayden Hawks, Emily Hawgood. Nice to see you both. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for inviting us. Super excited to be here with you guys.
Yeah, man, I'm really excited. I didn't think that I was going to be coming out this weekend, but I'm here, and I'm excited to be here.
And you guys are already comparing notes for the forthcoming Western States 100. We're only 2 months away. We'll probably get around to talking about that at some point during the course of our show. Before we get to it, behind the scenes here, we have our man, Mr. Ryan Thrower, executive producer on the ones and twos, literally squatting on the ground right now, doing a production job here. We also have Harmony, our chief cinematographer, maybe we'll call her, behind the scenes, and Keith Byrne, who is going to be coming up to join us here in the second half of today's show. Quick run of show for the weekend before we get to our co-hosts here. Today, we're going to start with sort of a deep preview of the 100K and 50K, which start on Saturday morning. The 100K up at China Wall, the 50K here in the heart of Auburn. So that's going to be our responsibility today. We'll talk about the weather, the courses, the fields, the final golden tickets that will be awarded here this weekend. Immediately after this, I'm going to hustle over to the expo. We're going to be doing a live podcast with the Peter God, this guy right here, Adam Peterman, who returns from injury, back at Canyons 100K looking for one of those golden tickets. Tomorrow we're going to be back here at 11 a.m. Hayden and our friend David Lamb are going to join us for our final fantasy prediction show going into race weekend, where we'll make our prognostications for who will perform the best in the 100K and the 50K. And then finally we'll wrap up race weekend with our post-race show. After everything is done on Saturday evening, probably around 5:30, we will go live. That's it for the next few days. All of our coverage is made possible by the good people at Hoka, so a big thank you to Hoka for their support here this weekend. Back to our co-hosts. First, we got to start with sort of personal updates from both of you. Maybe, Emily, we can start with you. Where are you at personally, athletically, as we make our way towards the Western States 100 and your third start at the race?
My fourth start.
Your fourth start, excuse me.
Yeah, I am doing good. Beautiful weather right now. Like, it's full on summer down here. It's been amazing. It just dropped like 20 degrees in the last couple days. But it's been beautiful and so green right now. So yeah, the spirit is high and getting out on the trails a bunch and full on training mode. And yeah, everything's going really good.
Awesome. Hayden?
Yeah, it's my fourth start too.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've got 4 starts myself total. So
hopefully I have more. Hopefully I have more than 4 at by the time my career's done.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I'm doing all right. After Black Canyon, I unfortunately had a little bit of injuries come up. Just kind of recovering from those now. Finally healthy again and starting to get into a good groove now. Feeling really good actually going into this final, 10-week block to Western States. And so this year's build-up's going to be a little different than I've had in the past. But that actually might not be a bad thing because I tend to overdo it with training. So maybe the extra rest and just having a little shorter block will be good for me.
Maybe say a few more words about that, because actually we were chatting about you with Hillary Allen the other day. Harmony and Hillary went out for a run, and I bumped into them. And we were talking about how she had just gone for a ride with you, I think. And we were all just like, God, Hayden's so impressive. And, you know, even when you're dealing with an injury, going into a big race, coming off a huge victory at Black Canyon, you got to deal with adversity. But, you know, at least according to Hillary, you were dealing with it like a true professional. Anything you want to say just about dealing with the roller coaster and the highs and lows of the journey, coming off your surgery last year, winning Black Canyon in spectacular fashion, then having a little bit more of a road bump, and how you try and stay level throughout it all?
Well, I got to give all credit to my wife and my kids. They keep me level. I mean, they keep me very balanced. And even when I'm dealing with like injury or having issues, like having Ashley and my kids there to like support me through it and to have something else to fall back on really helps me a ton. Because yeah, there are low moments where I question things, or I'm like, man, am I going to be able to be ready for Western States? And Ashley's always there to encourage me and keep me moving and motivate me. And also I just love being a dad, and
The best.
Yeah. Like I'm coaching my kids' soccer team right now. And so like having that kind of to, I guess, get my mind off the injury is really nice. So that's been good. By the way, that ride I did with Hillary, we did this big ride in St. George. We ran into all this snow. We ended up hiking our bikes for hours. And I actually ended up kind of getting injured from that ride. So don't tell Hillary. But no, like it's been, you know, off and on, but the good thing is I'm not coming from nowhere.
Yeah.
I have years and years and years of base underneath me, and it really doesn't take a lot of time for me to get fit. So I just try to stay, I try to stay as positive and confident as I can, and know that, hey man, I've been here before. I have experience. I know I can do this.
Yeah, it reminds me, as I just mentioned to you over at the Expo, a couple of years ago, Jim was in the same spot where he was battling injury and was doing a lot of his training on the bicycle, and then came back and ran 14:45 or something ridiculous like that. And I just, the thing that you just reminded me of is after Black Canyon, the post that your wife Ashley put up was goosebumps stuff. So go follow Ashley on Instagram and look at that amazing post that she put up in tribute to you after she also ran her first 100K at Black Canyon. So cool. Emily, tell us about Chianti. I mean, you've had a great start to your season too. You won the big race out there in the Italian wine country in March. That was probably a good sort of confidence boost as we go into the heart of the busiest part of racing season.
Yeah, I mean, it's been fun. Like, I've jumped in a bunch of local races here too, in the area. So it's been, you know, a really cool start to the season. The win in Chianti was not an easy one. I had someone on my tail right the whole way, which made it really fun, you know, to have kind of that intense racing the whole time. It was not an easy go in, which was really cool. With 6K to go, my coach was like, "You've got to move. She's right behind you." I was like, "Yeah, whatever." Like, she's not. He's like, "Look behind you." I'm like, "Oh, she's 300 feet behind me, sprinting down the road."
They're always there.
They're always there.
Yeah. It's so funny. I was just at the Expo talking about this with Stephen Kirsch. We were both just like, yeah, you can't cherry pick anything anymore.
No.
So
Dude,
anyway.
that's how it was at Black Canyon with Jupiter.
Yes.
Yeah.
That guy was a menace, dude. Like, I kept thinking I broke him, and then I would look back, and of course, there's so many switchbacks at Black Canyon, and you're like, dang, he's still there.
Yeah. That was such a great battle.
That was
Anyway,
awesome.
well, it's great to get at least some quick updates from both of you. But of course, we're going to be speaking mostly about the races that none of us are running this weekend. And before we get to those, I wanted to start just by talking about Auburn. And the reason for that is because we arrived last night. I went out for like a 90-minute run this morning. And you can just feel it here, you know? And maybe it's the fact that I have 4 starts here too, and I devoted 4 years of my life where I cared about nothing but the Western States 100, and that feeling maybe is still inside of me. But I don't know, there is something like really special about this place that you can feel. I was having visions of Tim Tweetmeyer, you know, a handsome young man in the 80s, just getting his long runs in on these trails way before ultra running and trail running was cool. So with that as the prompt, maybe Emily, we can start with you. You're pretty much a local here. So maybe talk about the significance of this place to trail running and to your journey as an athlete.
Yeah. So when I joined trail running, my coach, Paul Lind, kind of introduced me to the sport. And then, he has super close connections to Auburn, and his dad was the medic to start Western States, and we know Gordy, and yeah, just the community here is incredible, all the way back from a million years ago, not that long, but and it's just like the ground, the grounding place for trail running. So you come back and you just like, you feel the history and you feel the energy, even like not on a day where we have tents up and things. Like the aid station's just across the road, and you can go in there all the time, and there's always like a trail running fan like in there, and working out or getting gels and stuff. Like it's just a healthy atmosphere. No Hands, the place that we have run at, right at the end of Western States, and like legs burning and that's where people just go and spend the day and like take it all in. And it's a magical part of the world where you just go anywhere and you're on a trail out, on these famous trails, and any time of the year, which is cool too. Like it doesn't get too cold, or
it's a 12-month a year type place.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's so green right now. Like I know I keep saying that, but it's beautiful, and and you're always out there with others, which is cool too, and really speaks to our community.
Yeah. Hayden, anything you want to add?
I know why Emily always has a huge smile on her face. She's like the happiest person you'll ever meet because she lives here.
Yeah,
She's
right.
literally surrounded by it all the time. No, I think it's an amazing place, man. Like, it's why I keep coming back. Like, at the beginning of the year, I was actually trying to decide if I was going to focus on UTMB this year or try and get a golden ticket and come back to Western States. And yeah, there's something special about this place and this race and, and all this. It's like, I needed to come back. It's just this thing in my heart that just keeps bringing me back. And, I was actually taking Keith, who's going to be on the show later, out on the course today. And I drove him the last mile, showed him Placer High School and all that. And because this was his first time here.
You drove him down from Roby Point?
I drove him down from Roby Point. And I did it for two reasons. I did it to show him the area.
Yeah.
But I also did it for myself because, with injury, it's hard to be motivated sometimes, when you're fighting through injury. And I was like, I need to drive this because I need to get that fire. And man, when I drove that, it was just like, I felt
you
all those feelings
right?
again, man. And I was like, I need to be here in June, and I'm going to do whatever it takes and be as fit as I possibly can so that I can be running down this last mile and finishing this race in June. This is special, man. It's like Fenway Park, or it's like Wrigley Field.
Augusta National.
National, right? It's a special place.
Yeah, awesome.
It's kind of cool too because, like, obviously we talk about the mile, the final mile, Plaza track, and that holds so many memories, or up at the start. But if you just walk out the door here, like we have like our Walk of Fame, and the stars on the street, and there's so many like cool parts of this whole community right here all the time. So it's fun to see what everyone like really treasures, and hearing that, hearing you go, see the footsteps. It's super special.
So to our viewing audience, the point is you got to come to Auburn eventually. If not for the Western States 100, maybe come to Canyons. Both are fantastic events. We are not far from Placer High School, where the Western States 100 finishes, and literally just out the window from where we sit now will be the finish line for all the races this weekend. Speaking of which, let's talk about the races. I want to start with the weather conditions because I think that'll provide the foundation for what we talk about with the competitive dynamics in the field. Our producer, Ryan, I think is pulling a graphic up on the screen. While he does that, last year, unseasonably warm, you were doing battle out in the 50K when it was 90 degrees last year. This year, a different story. I've got the forecast up here, so I'll just list it off and then ask you guys to comment on how you think it might impact the races. So as we sit here, it feels like a sort of warm and humid, but they were only calling for a high of 65 degrees Fahrenheit today. Tomorrow, likely a little bit cooler, overcast with potentially some drizzles. They're calling for a high of 62. Again, the 100-mile race starts tomorrow morning. So the real thing that we're going to be talking about is Saturday, where they're expecting a high of 68, a low of 49. So they'll probably be cooler up at the start at China Wall. We'll talk about that here in a second. Partly sunny, so sort of feels like ideal conditions to me. So maybe teeing you guys up, Emily, we can start with you. If you were in the field this weekend looking at this weather forecast, how would it impact your strategy and race execution?
Yeah, I mean, well, at the start, it's going to be chilly, at least for the 100K, and it's going to be a fast start. I know we'll talk about that a little bit. So maybe just being prepared for me would be, focus on that warm-up and getting activated because you don't want to be cold right off the start line.
Yeah, all I can say is I know the course is a little different this year, but my course record from last year will be broken.
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
There's some fast dudes in the field, and the weather is ideal, and it's going to be very fast. I'm really excited to actually see both races, but I'm actually pretty intrigued with the 50K. I know the 100K is the big race for the weekend, but the 50K is stacked. It's going to be super fast, and there's going to be some fast times thrown down.
What about things like ice and nutrition and attrition, right? Because typically, like last year, for example, in the 100K especially, we saw people like Matt Daniels explode, David Roche. There was big spreads within the men's and women's top 10. Likely a little bit different in these conditions. Anything you guys want to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, just like we saw in states last year, like a lot of people get away when it's cooler with making mistakes early. And I think they're going to have that kind of grace this year too and be able to run quicker and not be as smart and still do okay, not see as many people blow up and still stay in the game, which makes it exciting.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think we saw this at Black Canyon too, because the weather was pretty ideal at Black Canyon and a lot cooler, is you're going to see some pretty fast aid station transitions, which will lead to, it could lead to some blow-ups, but it's also going to lead to very fast times for the people that can stick it. And I think also like some of these people might be having maybe nutrition problems, or they just haven't got their nutrition strategy down. With cooler weather, you can actually get away with that a little bit easier. With hot weather, you cannot.
Yeah.
And so I think this might actually be good for some of those people that might have had nutrition issues in the past.
Yeah. What I was thinking is that in mild weather, it's more of a talent game than an execution game. Like obviously execution is important, but when race conditions are like they were last year, 90 degrees, it makes any mistake a concentrated, higher consequence mistake. Where here it's easier to maybe skip out on a few calories and have it not ruin your day. Like you can recover from that stuff. Not so easy when it's sort of the unseasonable weather. And what I was thinking too is just, oftentimes it's fun to watch races where the weather conditions are incredibly challenging just because it really is like the best executed race will win. But when the weather's really nice and conducive to running hard, man, is it entertaining because it should keep the packs tighter together and therefore make it a little bit more of a, come down to the wire type experience for both the 100K and 50K. And with so much on the line here this weekend, we should mention, obviously we touched on the fact that this is a golden ticket race and a lot of the athletes in the 100K are going specifically for that. I know you guys have inside information, which we're going to get to here in a little bit. But also, this is the North American major for the UTMB World Series. So, top 10 does get the athletes, automatic trip to the UTMB World Finals at UTMB Mont Blanc too. So big consequences on the line is what I'm trying to say. And the weather will play into how things unfold this weekend. Talking about the 100K first, Ryan's going to throw up a graphic about the course. And then I'm going to ask Emily to sort of comment, given her local knowledge and experience here on the course. I think first and foremost, this is a new race course for the Canyons 100K. Explain a little bit about that, Emily.
Yeah, so they changed the course in 2021 because of COVID, and we didn't want to have the overlap because it used to be start at Forest Hill, you go out one way, come back down to Swinging Bridge and back, and then down to the river and back up to Forest Hill and finish there. And then in 2021, they changed it and we started at China Wall. And you go down to Indian Creek and then up and out to Devil's Thumb and then down to Swinging Bridge this year, which is new. We never went down to Swinging Bridge before. Come back up to Devil's Thumb, go on Trail 6, and then you hit Western States until Rocky Chucky, and then you come up Drivers Flat Road, and then some fun stuff at the end. But go to Mammoth Bar and hop over to No Hands, and then the classic finish, States finish. Which is awesome. I mean, it's cool this year because changing that direction, it kind of is a mini states.
Mini states.
Yeah, it makes it kind of fun.
Like even when you look at the course profile, you're like, wait, that looks familiar. Yeah.
Net downhill. You don't have that huge climb out of Eldorado this year. So it'll be really fun.
Yeah. So the stats on the race officially 62.5 miles, 12,500 feet of climbing, 16,000 feet of descent. So like we said, a net downhill course. Anything you want to add to that, Hayden?
Yeah, I think it's just so cool, especially for those people that might not ever get the chance to run Western States. Like they get a little taste of it this weekend, and that's what makes this race so cool and such a bucket list race. It should be a bucket list race for people, is that they can come out here, they can experience it, and they can kind of get that States feeling, right? And run through those historical landmark areas. I think it's going to be pretty cool, actually. I guess the one thing I'm a little concerned about with the new course is, are these athletes that are going after Western States, let's say, that end up getting the golden tickets, are they going to be able to recover from this type of race? Because I know how much States beats me up and destroys me. Are they going to be able to recover from this fast and this net downhill race and still have the energy and everything they need to be able to do well at something like Western States?
It's a good point. And so from memory, Beth Pascal was able to nail both of them 2 months apart. Adam Peterman was able to nail both of them 2 months apart. Last year's winners, Cole Watson won the 100K here, then was 9th at Western States. Ida Nilsson won here and then was 9th at Western States. Interesting pattern. But to your point,
completely
it is
different courses, though.
That's right. So actually, I have some stats on that. So I was looking at Cole Watson's Strava from his victory here last year. The course was officially 65 miles last year, so 2.5 miles longer, but only 10,000 feet of climbing, so 2,500 feet less of climbing. Do you guys have any prognostication as to how the winning time this weekend might compare to last weekend? Cole, I think, was 8:34, I want to say. I think it'll be faster, personally.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, weather for sure. Like last weekend, it hadn't been hot at all. Or last year, it hadn't been hot at all.
Yeah.
Then it was 90 degrees that weekend. This year, it's been hot, and then it's cooling down. I mean, it's going to be super nice.
Yeah.
And then with, the net downhill.
Yeah, I think it's going to go around 8 hours.
Me too.
If not faster.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody could break 8, which would be awesome.
I bumped into Kim Gaylord this morning, and she said, my hot take, the winner goes sub 8 in the men's race. So around 8 hours, maybe under that. So probably 9 hours, 9:15 for the women, we think. Anyway, maybe we'll get to that in our prediction show tomorrow. Let's talk about the fields. This race is sick. This is definitely the most competitive Canyons 100K we've seen. Obviously, that has a lot to do with the consequences and the things that are on the line that we just mentioned here, especially the golden ticket race. Starting with the women, at least from my perspective, Katie Scheid comes in as probably the clear favorite. Emily, you have experience racing with and against Katie Scheid. Maybe let's start with her, and then we can go through some of the other contenders.
Yeah, I mean, Katie kind of has the field here because she's the only one coming onto the line with an entry to States. Nothing to lose. She just gets to go and work out there tomorrow and run. I don't know if she's going to have someone to push her or someone to compete with. Like, I mean, she could just run this race on her own, honestly. That's kind of my prediction, is that she goes out and she doesn't see anyone. Hopefully she's racing the guys, because that's the best part about all our trail races, that we have the guys to race, have the guys to push us. So hopefully she makes the most of it. And she ran states last year, so she's definitely seen a lot of the course. She's always strong. Yeah, I'm really interested with Katie though too, because Katie already has a ticket. Like, she's in Western States. She don't have to push.
Right.
Like, she can just sit and kick if she really wants to, and just get time on the course, get a good long run in, a good push. So it'll be interesting what approach she takes. I know for me last year, that's the approach I took, was a sit and kick. You know, I didn't really I wanted to win, of course, and I wanted to get a good solid effort in, but I didn't want to have to do too much. And so that's what I did last year. And so Katie might play the same strategy. We don't know.
Yeah. So just for our viewing audience, a reminder that Katie Scheid ran the second fastest time ever at the Western States 100 last summer, just behind, of course, the great Courtney Dauwalter, who had a generational defining performance, a paradigm shifting performance, the only person to ever run faster than Katie on this course. So clearly she can run on these trails. Of course, she's a UTMB champion. She won Diagonal des Fous at the end of last year. So one of the best in the world for sure, one of the best of our generation for sure. And like you guys both said, using this as a dress rehearsal for Western States, where I'm sure she's going in hoping to secure that Cougar trophy. And it is interesting to think about whether she takes her typical approach, which is racing kind of like Hayden Hawks usually does, like put pressure on the field early, or if she approaches it more as an opportunity to gain experience, get a good long training day, not beat herself up too much. So
she's been putting in some big weeks too. Like big weeks.
Dude,
if you follow her on Strava, it's pretty intense. And I just interviewed her, and she said that she's kind of taken some risks with training this year. So I think she's really wanting to throw down a fast time at Western States.
Yeah, well, I mean, we should definitely mention, she also broke the record last year. Yes, Courtney blew it out the water, but that's impressive that around so long.
From my generation, Ellie Greenwood. I mean, I ran that year, 2012.
Awesome.
And everybody was like, holy smokes, Ellie Greenwood's record is never going down. Nobody had been within almost 30 minutes. I think it was 27 minutes of Ellie Greenwood's record. And then, of course, Courtney Dauwalter broke it by 80 minutes.
Yeah.
But Katie Scheid snuck underneath it too. And Ellie Greenwood, a first ballot Hall of Famer. So having your name, in this case, Katie Scheid, be in the same ballpark as Courtney Dauwalter's and Ellie Greenwood's, Katie Scheid, truly one of the best in the sport right now, and truly one of the best of all time, potentially. Emily, who else would you consider to be, like, if you were lining up this weekend, who would you sort of be marking as sort of the main contenders?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really great question. I think the girls are a lot quieter in their training and how they're feeling. But, we have big names on the line again. Addie's there and Erin Clark. Erin got her ticket here, didn't she? A couple years ago?
I think so, yes.
I'm trying to think.
When she ran, that was probably 2021.
2022, because I ran 2021.
Right. Anyway, but Erin, I think is a good person to talk about, because she has a very decorated background at the University of Colorado. She's run Western States in the past. She won Lake Sonoma last year, which gave her automatic qualification for the World Championships. Unfortunately, she got injured, but coming in here, probably fewer people are picking her on the fantasy team. It's been a little while since she's been on a start line, so I don't know if that's something where you come in with less confidence, or if you come in, with less pressure. But I feel like Erin Clark is probably poised for a really good one this weekend.
Yeah, and I mean, she's, training with Adam or training by him, and they're really good at supporting each other too, through injuries and things like that. So I think the confidence is there, not in an arrogant way, but in just a humble, they're going to be super grateful to get on that start line. And so let's see what, they can do.
Yeah.
I mean, Erin's amazing. I mean, the talent is there. And if she's healthy, she'll always be a contender. Yeah. Is she going to show up healthy? And that's the biggest thing with Erin. So I guess that's always the biggest question with her.
Yeah. So, MK Sullivan comes in as the second ranked athlete by UTMB Index. She's typically known for specializing in sub-ultra distance stuff. She was 9th at the World Championship, a huge performance for her last year. Stepping up to the 100K, she DNF'd at Black Canyon in February. I think one of you were talking to her and had an idea of whether or not she was here for a ticket or if she was...
Yeah, I just interviewed her.
Tell us.
And I'll tell you. So you asked her who I thought, was maybe the person to look at, for this weekend. MK.
Yeah.
She is ready. I mean, she has a fire in her eyes, and she was not happy about her Black Canyon performance. She knew that she was capable of so much more, but unfortunately she rolled her ankle.
Yep.
She had to make the decision to drop out. But she's ready for this race. She really wants to prove to herself, not prove to anybody else, but to herself that she can run a really good 100K. And I think that's the most important thing is she's not running this race for anybody else. She's running it for herself. And that is dangerous. That's very dangerous when somebody's like that. She lives in Reno, not too far away. She's trained on these trails a lot. She knows them like the back of her hand. And honestly, like when I interviewed her, I was like, wow, she's ready to go. And I think with MK too, she's not quite sure if she wants the golden ticket, but from when I was interviewing her, I could tell that if it presents itself and if she's able to, potentially take that golden ticket, I do think she'll take it.
If you're not sure you're going to take it, you're going to take it. Come on. Anything you want to add on MK? We've got a bunch of other women we can take through here.
Yeah, I don't know MK personally, but seeing her hop in a bunch of runs with Helen, in Reno, and she came down here and ran with our girls that were out here for training camp for states, Ingvild and Danny and Tony. Right. She's on fire for sure. Everyone keeps saying that. Everyone who's running with her is like, oh, she's ready. She's ready. So that's, really cool. And even like Amanda, she also had a race out.
Amanda Basham.
Yep. Out in, where did she race?
She won Kodiak.
Yeah,
right.
And
Kodiak,
then she ran in Italy.
Yeah, like a week before me. After. So she rocked that.
So a couple other names here. One that I wanted to bring up is Jade Bellsberg, because I think she's sort of one of these athletes that definitely can contend for a golden ticket, if not win, and who sort of flies under the radar, right? I remember last year she won the VK at Broken Arrow earlier in the spring, just last month. She was second to Claire DeVoe at Chuckanut. So, clearly in good form right now, and an athlete that I don't know personally, but who I sort of follow from afar. And, sometimes you sort of identify people who you're like, it feels like you're on the precipice of something special here. So that was one person I wanted to shout out. We mentioned Addie Bracey, Riley Brady. I mean, we could go on forever. Shea Aquilano's on the start list. One person, maybe you guys will have some comments on, Megan Roche. Interesting to see her on the list. It was funny, when we moved to the Bay Area, my wife and I, Megan Roche was just absolutely slaughtering every Strava CR that existed at that point. And her name was Megan Deakins at that point. It was just before she and David got married. And we were like, who is this Megan Deakins woman? Of course, then we came to know her as she made a name for herself in the sport. But I believe this is her first 100K. And I don't know, question mark for me as to like, why is she lining up here? Would she take the ticket? Because David came last year, like I just said, and suffered mightily in the second half of the race, finished. But here she is, Megan Roche. Any comments from the panel here?
It sounds like she will take the ticket. I was listening to their podcast actually on my way here. And the one thing about David and Megan is they will always, they're on top of everything.
Yeah.
They are dialing in their nutrition, crewing, everything. They're leaving no stone unturned. And from the podcast, it sounded like she was really doing that, really focusing on trying to get her nutrition down, which is, of course, we all know is probably the most important thing in the long stuff. And I think if she can nail her nutrition with the talent and the speed and everything else that she has, from years and years of doing this, I think she could have a really special day. And of course, she has that mom strength now too. So
Yep, absolutely.
And that's also her first 100K. You only get one of those, and there's some magic there. You kind of leave some of the stress behind and take the pressure off because you're like, I don't know what I can do. Let's just see if I can do it. And that kind of brings a little extra kick too. And so that'll be fun to see her step up.
I'm so glad you said that. Do you have anything you want to say about this too? Because like to me, sometimes I feel like we overemphasize the idea of a debut at a distance. And sometimes it is an advantage rather than a disadvantage. I guess it depends on how you approach it psychologically and strategically. But I really loved what you just said about that. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think
Because you were sort of the guy, you started your first 50K. Speed Goat. Who is this guy from St. George? He just dominated.
I was talking to somebody today about that. Like my first 100K was CCC,
And you won.
which I won, right? And it's like I do think there's something like special about it going in with no expectations, just going in with that fire to like not necessarily prove a point, but like show yourself what you're capable of. I mean, you know what you're capable of, from your training and everything else. And I think if you can just kind of put yourself away from all the other stuff, and not worry about all the hype and everything else that's going on, and just focus on running your own race with, that lack of expectations, you can really do something special. And honestly, some of my best races in my career have come off of my debut at those certain distances.
I'm so glad you mentioned this, Emily.
I love it too because you kind of don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
And when you do know, sometimes you're like, oh, I know it's going to hurt.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. It's like there's freedom in ignorance sometimes. And sometimes with experience, you get jaded or you get fossilized or you're like, oh, shit, like I have to do this again. Anyway.
I think it kind of depends on your personality too. Like for me, like I've always been the type of person when somebody tells me that I can't do something or that it's impossible to win at your debut, whatever, I'm like, I'm going to prove them wrong, right? I'm going to go show what I can do. And so I think like if your personality's that and you're, I think you can do really well.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for bringing that up, Emily. A couple internationals just to give a shout out here to those who made the effort to travel all the way to California to chase a golden ticket. Anna McKenna and Stephanie Austin from Australia, Naomi Brand from New Zealand, Marta Wenta from Germany, Arden Young from Canada, and a friend of mine, Kamino Miyazaki from Japan, a Hoka athlete. Any intel on the international contingent here?
Go ahead.
I mean, I know Arden came down for Black Canyon too.
Right.
Didn't have the day she wanted there, so it's fun to see her step up again today and tomorrow, Saturday. And hopefully nail it. Another great person. Rocked it at CCC last year. It's a fun field of athletes.
I'd like to give a shout out to Anna McKenna.
Yeah.
She has been chasing a golden ticket for years now.
I met
and
her
been
at Black Canyon.
so close.
Yeah.
I mean, I think she ran this race last year and she was top 5. I think she was just off a golden ticket last year. So she does have experience on these trails, on this course, and she is hungry. She's very hungry to get a golden ticket, and she's just a sweetheart. I mean, she's an amazing person, very humble, but very, very talented.
Awesome. Thanks for that. One dark horse that I wanted to bring into the conversation here, somebody that I was tipped off to by our friend Matt Daniels, who we'll talk about here in a second. Mary Denholm from Boulder. I don't know if he's filled you in on her, but what he said to me is that he's coaching her. She lives in Boulder. She comes from the road scene, and she's destroying every Strava CR in Boulder right now. Mary Denholm, do you have any color on her?
Yeah, Matt just hypes her up, man. I mean, he says she is so fast. She's really got a good mindset about it as well. I think she's fairly new to the trails, of course. She comes from the road running background, but her marathon times are extremely fast. The speed's not going to be an issue for her. It's just, does she have enough trail experience? And is she healthy? And I think I heard some rumors that maybe she'd been fighting some stuff. So we don't know 100%. But I do think that if she's healthy and she can go out there with the confidence on the trail, she can have a really good day.
Yeah, awesome. Incredible women's field. Incredible race to be had for those golden tickets on the women's side. Moving over to the men, let's start with Adam Peterman, your buddy, your teammate. You guys did battle at Western States, finishing
Let's not talk about that.
1-2. You guys finished 1-2 a couple years ago. And I don't know, I feel like your stories overlap a little bit because, you both got hurt last year. You sort of were both dealing with some adversity. Obviously, you're both two of the best of all time. So maybe starting with Adam, if there's any like inside baseball or perspective that you have on him and his preparation and his return to form after what was a really serious injury.
Yeah, I think everybody's got to check out the video you guys did.
Thank you.
Freetrail did with
Shout
Adam.
out Ryan. Shout out Ryan.
Shout out Ryan. I mean, that was an incredible video. And I think you really get to see the type of person that Adam is in that video. I mean, he's just an amazing person, you know, first and foremost. Like, he's one of the best of all time, of course, but he's just one of the best people of all time, too. And, you know, even though he beat me in 2022 and I'll never live him down, or I'll never let him live down, whatever I'm trying to say for that. Yeah, I think Adam, I think the one thing about Adam is he's so incredibly talented. It doesn't take a lot of time for Adam to build that fitness back. You know, yes, he was out all of last year, but I'm not too worried about that, to be honest with you. And I think the good thing about Adam is Adam is a student of the sport. He learns from maybe some of the mistakes that he's made that led to the injuries. And, you know, I've talked to Adam off and on throughout his whole injury. We were both actually like helping each other out going through the injuries. We'd send texts every now and then to each other to kind of help each other get through it.
Yeah.
Because, it can be tough when you're fighting injury, especially a big one like Adam had. And I think the thing about Adam is he learned from that. And he did a lot of things through his recovery process to like make sure that doesn't happen again, and changed his training up a bit, knowing that, I maybe don't have to push those limits as much as I think I have to do. And I think that's a good thing. I do think that he'll come into this very prepared and ready to have an incredible day.
I loved at the finish line 2 years ago at Western States when he won and you finished second place. Immediately what you said is, he was just better than me today. Hats off to that guy. It's like I get goosebumps even remembering it, just the spirit of it. And hearing you talk about it like that is awesome. Emily, anything you want to add on Adam? I think obviously the next guy, again, if we're talking about who's ranked in what order by UTMB index, the next guy is Petter Engdahl. And I understand you guys have inside intel as to why is Petter Engdahl here? Really interesting story. Certainly one of the most interesting characters in the race on Saturday. Why don't we start with you, Emily?
Yeah, I mean, on Adam first, I think his consistency is what is showing up like every day. You know, I'm hearing about him, you know, doing weighted heel reps with Nate Bender out in Montana, you know, in the middle of winter, and just daily, he seems to be putting in that work, and that's going to show up on Saturday for sure. Petter is here, which is super cool. I mean, my teammate, so definitely give him a shout out. So excited that he gets to be here and kind of experience Auburn and the history and the trails here. He was super pumped. You know, Terex made it kind of a focus race too. So we have full support out here for everyone to come out. And I mean, he wants to be with the best. So this would definitely be a race that he would pick. Definitely coming out of winter. But
what about the golden ticket? That's
maybe we should hear what Hayden has to say first. I do.
So I just interviewed Petter. I asked him this question: are you going to take the golden ticket? And he said, if it presents itself, it would be hard to turn down. He said Western States is a race that's always intrigued him, and he's always wanted to do at some point in his career. I believe he will take it if it presents itself. I would say the one thing with Petter is he's a little nervous about this type of race. Yeah. He doesn't quite know what to expect because he doesn't do a lot of, fast runnable races like this. This is something maybe new for him, but like we talked about, that might be a good thing. Mm-hmm. I think he said that the reason he's here and the reason he picked Canyons in the first place was he wants to do UTMB, and apparently he had to get another 100K finish. Yeah. He had to get a qualification. So that was his first reason of being here, but then that golden ticket does intrigue him.
Yeah, that's what makes it cool, being both a golden ticket and a North American major, because, you know, even if you fall short of a golden ticket goal, you can always, you know, sort of keep fighting for one of those top 10s and those automatics.
Now let's see what Emily has to say.
Yeah, because we had team camp a month ago or 6 weeks ago, whatever, and we were chatting with him. And that was the big question he asked us. We were like talking about shoes and, you know, team chat, and he asked us like, hey, if I get a golden ticket, should I take it? And at first, all of us, you know, we're sitting there like, oh, yeah, like, you get a golden ticket. Come on. But then we got him talking about UTMB, and he has so much he wants to accomplish there too. And with it being a big race, and they are actually pretty close. You're one of the only people who's been able to pull it off. I know. I don't think he'll take it this year.
You don't?
No, I think he really wants to focus on UTMB.
Okay.
I mean, like you said, like it'll be hard for him to say no, but if he really looks inside, we could just hear him like light up, and his eyes and his heart is at UTMB.
Rad.
But he does want to run states sometime.
So before we move off Petter, I just want to reinforce everything you guys just said. One thing that's interesting, he's Swedish. He lives in Norway. Not super easy to train through the winter months. He probably does most of his volume on skis, but he is a stud, and he's got range. Like, he was third at the Mont Blanc Marathon last year. And we'll remember that the last time he ran 100K, he ran one of the best 100Ks ever at CCC, at least based on like ITRA performance index historically. And we'll have a fun, cool thing to share.
I was in
tomorrow.
that race.
Yeah, right.
He wiped the floor with me,
Dude,
man.
that was insane, that performance that day. So anyway, 100K, very much in Petter's wheelhouse. So even if he doesn't necessarily have the massive motivation of a golden ticket, has all the talent to
He's coming off a big injury too.
Is he really?
Yeah,
Okay.
he got in a bike crash, I think, last year and broke his collarbone or something. And so I think it's a common thing that we're seeing is a lot of these athletes are coming off of pretty big injuries. So that'll be interesting as well.
He also gets to train with the best up in those hills.
Yeah,
like,
right.
It doesn't matter what
God,
time
those
of year
guys have
it
a
is.
squad, right?
Yeah, they do.
Maybe that'll influence him taking the ticket or not, because John
Right.
Albin's coming to Western States.
Right.
Yeah.
So if he can go back to Norway, train with John, and they could come out
Tom
together.
Crew and pace him.
Yeah, that
I like
might
that
actually
idea.
be a
I
good
love that.
thing.
All right.
That'd be
awesome.
fun.
Matt Daniels. Let's move to him. I really want to have Hayden provide his perspective. I know you guys are buddies. I know you guys have done a lot of training together. When you won Black Canyon, Matt Daniels was in that seat, and he and I shared a lot of kind words about you. So maybe turn the tables, give some kudos to your boy Matt, and you know why you think he's off to such a hot start here in 2024, because he's been on a roll.
Yeah, shout out to Matt. Matt was probably my biggest believer going into Black Canyon. Like, he knew what I was capable of, and he was willing to talk about it, which was amazing, because there was a lot of people that were questioning if I would be able to actually do what I did at Black Canyon.
Hand up, dude. Hand up. I didn't pick you to win.
But Matt knew.
Yeah.
We talk a lot. I mean, I just was at his house a couple weeks ago staying with him. Matt is an incredible athlete. He's one of the most talented athletes in this sport, hands down. Matt's big thing has always been his nutrition. Matt can outrun anybody in this field if he's fueling properly. And I think that's the biggest thing. And I've actually been trying to help him, because that's one thing that I have gotten down in the last years. And I know that Matt has struggled with it. And I am constantly texting him and reminding him, dude, work on your nutrition, work on your nutrition. And I've been trying to help him with some things, and he's been working on it. He messaged me the other day and said he got over 100 grams of carbs in for one of his long runs. And he said
Per hour, you mean?
Yeah, per hour. And it felt great. His stomach handled it. He felt a lot better. So if he can nail his nutrition in this race, there is no doubt in my mind that Matt can win this race.
Yeah.
He's unsponsored, so he's definitely got that going. And I know Matt, when Matt's motivated, he's scary, man.
That's what I was going to say. Is it feels like that was almost the renaissance that he needed, right? To like wake up something inside of him. And he's in a good place right now. Like, he was just at Gorge with us a couple weekends ago, and that's what he said is like, you know, he's been working on himself a lot, and he just feels kind of happy and content with where he is in life. And that's counterintuitive, right? When you lose your sponsor and therefore get put in a pretty exposed position professionally, economically, financially, to that be a moment where you do have almost that sense of freedom that we mentioned with people who are inexperienced at a certain distance. Sometimes it is just like that blank slate that you need. And Matt is certainly experiencing that. Anything you want to add on, Matt?
Yeah, well, I mean, getting out of that comfort zone, just on that point that you guys are talking about, like comfort zones are good, but not that good sometimes. And I think that, that exposure for Matt has just been like, hey, I don't have to prove myself. Like, he has a legit career he's put together, but he's kind of out of his comfort zone right now, which is cool. Like, that gives you the inspiration to go beyond, to take risks, to take chances, to work on things that you have managed to maybe figure out before, but are really feeling and really notice. I remember seeing him in Switzerland during UTMB, hiking through, saying like, I'm done. I can't do this 100-mile distance, whatever. I was like, Matt, you're in Switzerland. I don't care. Keep
You're
going.
getting it. And he finished 29 hours. 29 hours.
Yep, and rocked it.
So,
Yeah, I'd just like to say, like I've been there through the ups and downs of Matt's life and his career, and I'm really proud of that guy. I mean, he's in a really good spot right now, and he's done a lot of work, a lot of hard work to get to this point. I'm really proud of him, and I'm really excited to see what he can do tomorrow.
He's got such a good heart. So we've mentioned Peterman, Petter Engdahl, and Matt Daniels. I mean, with those three guys in the field, it's ridiculous. But of course, we're only scratching the surface. I'm just going to list a bunch of names, and then you guys can sort of add any color or perspective on any of the athletes. One category of people that I think is interesting are people who narrowly missed at Black Canyon. So we've got Tim Tollefson, Rod Farvard, Trayson Knopp, Craig Hunt, Stephen Kirsch, Eric LaPuma, all who missed at Black Canyon, doubling down here at Canyons. That's one category. And then, of course, we just have like an all-star lineup of other studs, like, Drew Holman's in the field. I'm pulling up the start list here.
We should be talking about Drew, man.
Yeah, right. So Drew is the third highest ranked athlete by UTMB Performance Index, but somehow still always the guy who, it sort of flies under the radar.
One of the most underrated athletes in our sport.
Yeah.
He is just an absolute stud.
Yep. So Kevin Vermeulen, he's fourth ranked French athlete coming here to the States. Don't know a ton about him, so he'll be an interesting person to monitor. We mentioned that whole group of people who missed at Black Canyon. Pequan Yu also was at Black Canyon. He DNF'd, Chinese athlete who was second at the Hong Kong 100K earlier in the winter. Bay Area local who, importantly, just broke the world record for the fastest marathon dressed as a banana at the Boston Marathon. Matt Seidel also missed at Black Canyon. So anyway, it's a murderer's row in the men's race. We don't need to go through every single name, but any color or perspective on any of those names? To me, like, I look at people, like, I always, again, like Jade Belsberg, I put like Eric LaPuma in that category. It's like, I just like, there's something about him where I'm like, I feel like you're knocking on the doorstep, Similarly, like I went for a run with Rod Farvard earlier in the spring before Black Canyon, actually. It's like, dang, this kid is freaking strong. And of course you have like all-time greats like Tim Tollefson here on the start line, who is, I think, 60th on the wait list at Western States, but wants to get in, through the front door, given, through a golden ticket. So anyway, tons of names. Any perspective, comments?
Yeah, like you also have Cody Lynn,
Cody,
very much experience on this course, this field, his whole life. So many names, so much hunger out there. I think that's the biggest thing about the guys field, is that we had so many of them down at Black Canyon. So many have been in states before, like really want to get back. They're hungry. How hungry are they?
Right.
I think the biggest word with all those guys that you listed is consistency.
Yeah.
Those guys are so consistently in the top 10, all the time. And, maybe people, that aren't on the podium don't get as much credit as they should deserve. I think all these guys should deserve more credit than they're getting because they're so consistently there. They're always there. They're guys that I know when I line up on race day, like they're going to be there. They're going to be in the mix, and I need to watch my back. If you make any fault at all, boom, they're there.
Right.
And I think the one thing that I've heard is a lot of these guys that are coming off of Black Canyon said that they were a little upset that they maybe didn't take more risks at Black Canyon, that they didn't try and go out a little bit harder. And I think we might see some very hungry guys at the start of this race putting themselves in the mix early on and not just sitting back and trying to work their way through the field. I think there's going to be a lot more people in the front taking those risks, and so it'll make for a very exciting race.
You kind of need to. I mean, it was pretty early in the race that you and Hooperter had separated from the field. Chris Myers was sort of the guy who ran sort of through the field and put himself in golden ticket contention. But to get these golden tickets, like we were saying, you can't cherry pick anywhere anymore. You have to put yourself in the fight early to have a chance.
Especially on good weather days, because
Yeah.
there's not going to be as many blow-ups. Right.
They've got that early out and back down to the swinging bridge, so they'll have early intel as to who's pushing hard and what the gap is early. So just a closing thought here on the 100K for our listening audience, just to make it totally clear. Black Canyon, where Hayden won in February, was what we were calling a super golden ticket race, which meant there was 3 golden tickets on the line in both the men's and women's race. This is a standard golden ticket race, so only 2 golden tickets in both the men's and women's races. Katie Scheid, I believe, is the only person with automatic qualification, so, and she's obviously in the women's race, so if she were to finish in the top 2, it would bump down to 3rd. Moving on to the 50K. Before we do, a quick plug and thanks to our good friends at Hoka. I had Carl Meltzer on my pod recently. Stud. We talked all about the history of the Speed Goat lineage. What would you wear this weekend? What did you wear in the 50K last year?
I wore the Tecton X2
Okay.
last year, which I think is perfect for like the 50K or the 100K even on this course. I think another good shoe could be the Mafati. The Mafati's a little bit more, it's faster, a little bit more responsive than maybe the Speed Goat, but the Speed Goat would work great too. Everybody get ready for the Tecton X3. That shoe is lethal. It's dangerous. It's fast. I love that shoe.
All right. You heard it from Hayden Hawks, folks. The Tecton X3 coming soon. I know the Speed Goat 6 is coming very soon, too. So a big thank you to Hoka for their support of our coverage here this weekend. And make sure you go get your fantasy picks in, fantasy.freetrail.com, to have a chance to win some awesome prize packages from Hoka. Let's just spend like 5 minutes on the 50K real quick since we're going a little long here. Ryan, you can pull up the course graphic here. Hayden, this is roughly the same course that you ran last year, but in reverse. So maybe just tell the listening audience like what the 50K runners can expect out here in the Sierra Nevada foothills.
Yeah, I was looking at the course this morning, and like you said, it's in reverse, but you have pretty much 2 big climbs and then 3 big climbs. You have like one pretty early on. You have... Well, actually, I shouldn't say that.
No, it's in reverse this year. So you have 1 early on and then 2 late in the race, including one right at the very end.
There is a little bit of an extra climb. Then no, it's the same, right? Yeah, because there was the same last year, but the climbs are a bit different because this year, because it's ran in reverse, that first climb is actually on pavement. It's pretty fast climb. It's very runnable. While the first climb last year or the second climb last year was actually on like a single track, fairly technical trail, not too technical. So, but that's actually the big descent now is that section. Okay. So there will be a little bit of differences with that, but when you're up on top, those rolling trails on top, those are all going to be pretty much the same. It's just rolling California carpet trail, super fast. But yeah, I do think the course might run a little bit faster this year because the climbs are on more runnable surface, I would say.
And more of the climbing is backloaded this year. Anyway, we're sort of speculating here. The point is, it's a fast runnable 50K. Hayden, you ran about 3.5 hours last year. You think it's going to go faster than that. The stats are a little over 31 miles, just under 5,000 feet of climbing. Ryan, I think you have a graphic from Hayden Hawks' Strava from last year we're going to put on the screen. Also, the reason I wanted to share this is so everybody can just look at your pace for the final 10 miles so they can just be dumbfounded at your greatness. So if you notice here, it's basically all 5-minute miles and 6-minute miles here in the final 10, except mile 30 happened to be 8 minutes, 35 seconds, but with a gap pace of 5:42 because you had 500 feet of climbing in that mile. So basically you need to be going high 5, low 6 pace to have a chance to win in the 50K this weekend.
I think with this, actually this course suits climbers very well.
Okay.
Because you have that, that first big climb, and then to be able to run fast off of a big climb is really crucial. So someone who's maybe conserving a little bit more energy climbing will have those legs to run that very runnable section. And then that final climb, which goes up to Roby Point, like the race can be, won or lost right there.
Yeah.
If there's a group of guys together, let's say, going into that final climb, the best climber is going to win.
That's what happened with you and Jesh last year, right? It came down to the last climb and you punished him.
Yeah, and I kind of knew nothing against Jesh. Jesh is an amazing athlete.
That was his breakout race.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. But I could tell early on that I was climbing better than him.
Yeah.
That's just what it was.
Yeah.
What was happening, and so I knew that if I could just stay with him, I would win the race because that
Last
finish
climb.
is on a climb.
Yeah.
And so if the guys are kind of questioning or trying to figure out how to race this, if you're a climber and you can outclimb somebody, you're probably going to win the race because you finish on a climb.
Hell yeah. So speaking of climbers, Eli Hemming, dude is a stud. It's Eli Hemming versus Chad Hall, basically. This is, I think, the first time we've seen these guys race each other head to head. Could be the most exciting one-on-one matchup of race weekend. Obviously, your buddy Dan Jones is in the field, came all the way from New Zealand, his dress rehearsal for Western States. But Eli versus Chad is crazy exciting. Cole Watson's local, won the 100K here last year, super talented. Peter Frano from Slovakia, interesting story. He was third at the Long Course World Championships. And one other guy I wanted to give a shout out to is Hiroki Kai, Japanese guy. They call him Crazy Karo. He'll be hot off, he will be with Eli and Chad off the front. And he's a YouTuber, so he'll run with a camera on his hat. He'll probably film the entire race. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he uploads, because if he can stay with Eli and Chad for a while, we might get a front row seat. So Hiroki Kai, wanted to give a shout out to him. Again, we can go quickly through the 50K, but I just named a lot of the people that I view as the favorites in the men's race. Any comments on that before we touch on some of the women's favorites?
I think Chad and Eli just went head to head. I was looking at their UTMB stuff, and didn't Chad beat Eli?
I think they raced at Broken Arrow last year.
I can't
Oh,
remember.
that's right. No,
Was
and
it
Eli
there?
won.
Was
Yeah,
it-
and Eli
Eli
won.
won.
Eli
Okay.
beat
That's
Chad,
right.
yeah.
Okay, so it was.
Thank
I think
you.
it was a different race.
It was
I
the
looking at
23K.
too.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Eli is one of the best climbers in the world, and right now he is super fit. I was talking to Matt Daniels, who raced him at Big Alta,
Yeah.
and then he raced Francesco Pupi
Yeah.
at Chuckanut, and he was telling, and Francesco's an amazing athlete, right?
Yeah.
He's one of the best in the world, and Matt was telling me he thinks that Eli is fitter than Francesco. And he was saying, dude, Eli is on another level right now, especially climbing wise. Matt said he was able to stay with him pretty well on the downhills, but he said the climbing, it was another level. Eli would just turn it on and boom, he was gone.
It was crazy.
So I do think that this course, like I said, I think it can favor somebody who's a really good climber. So I do think Eli, he's my favorite for this race. Him and Dan, of course, I can't leave him out, but I do think Dan's coming in very fit as well. He had an amazing performance at Tarawara, and I think Tarawara doesn't get a lot of hype around it as much anymore because it's so far away. New Zealand's kind of on the other side of the world. But Dan has ran some incredible times at Tarawara, some of the most underrated times I've ever seen on a 100K race. And I do think Dan comes from a track and field background. He's very speedy. He can hold his own against some of these guys as well in this field.
Awesome. Anything you want to add on the men's race?
Yeah, I mean, just looking at that field, Hayden said when we started, we were really excited about that race, the 50K race, as much as the eyes are on the 100K. I think It's going to be a fun, fast race. I mean, I just met Eli and Tabor too. They just joined the Adidas Terex team.
As did Dan Jones.
As did Dan Jones, yep. And incredible humans. Like, those three. Like, wow.
Yeah.
I just love that we're adding them to the trail running, community, but getting to know them more and more, obviously being on the team. I'm really excited they're wearing orange.
Yeah, so Eli and Tabor, I think, are both trying to qualify for OCC later this summer. I think they probably neither should have a problem qualifying for that, and I can't wait to see both of them race there because what you were just saying was totally true. At the Big Alta this year, Eli and Tabor, for that matter, unbelievable performances, but Eli won by 17 minutes in a 50K with Darren Thomas and Matt Daniels behind him. Sick performance. Like, if Big Alta wasn't an inaugural year, like, that could be one of those, like, performance of the year type performances.
And Dan better have a podium finish, because if he doesn't, he's coming to stay with me for the next 8 weeks to prepare for Western States. He's going to be living in my house. I might not give him a room if he doesn't podium, so...
Pressure.
Yeah. I
You
hope
want
Dan's
dinner? Oh,
listening.
yeah. You just go sit in the backyard and have your dinner. Women's race, we'll just bang through this quickly. Number 1 ranked athlete coming in by UTMB Performance Index is Danny Moreno, another one of your teammates. Jen Lichter was 4th at the World Championships last year. We just mentioned Tabor Hemming. Sam Lewis. Of course, Molly Seidel, who I've got a bottle of Kool-Aid for here, making her trail ultramarathon debut. So anyway, and that's only the tip of the iceberg again, but maybe starting with those characters. Any comments from you, Emily?
Yeah, I mean, short distance fire. Like, this race is, all those ladies are fast and strong climbers and smart racers. I think that's, key tomorrow. I mean, maybe in the 50K for the females, I wish it was a little hotter because then it would come down to attrition, but we're going to see the talent fly tomorrow or Saturday. And it's going to be really exciting. I'm super pumped with that field. And they are excited too, which is...
Yeah.
Some incredibly fast women. I was just talking to Jen, actually, and she was saying that her and Danny, they're good friends and they've trained a lot together, but they've actually never raced each other. And they're both very speedy. They're both incredible climbers. And Jen was hungry. I mean, she said, she told me in the interview, she said, I'm going to go out hard and I'm going to push because that's the only way I like to race. And she said, and I like to hurt.
Yes.
She said, and I'm ready to hurt. So I'm really excited for, Danny and Jen fighting each other and seeing what they can do up front and seeing what kind of time they can run on this course.
Incredible.
I'm excited to hear that too because Danny came out a few weeks ago and trained out here, so she knows the course too, backwards and forwards. But I don't know Jen well personally, but I know she's done really well at the Rut. She's from Montana. She's part of this Missoula crew. They've got a really deep group of young, hungry, talented athletes.
She's done really well at the mountain stuff, but she also won JFK.
She won JFK. Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
It's like Sonoma marathon.
Yeah, right.
And ran incredible times in both races. So, I mean, she's just good from the mountains to the flat.
See, it's almost like you, and this is like where, I don't know, like those are the types of athletes that I just really admire, is like those who can perform well across distances and across terrain variability. And Jen, very much like in the early innings of her career, very much thinks she is going to be one of those household names. And what a better place to continue to establish her career in this sport than, a good performance here at the North American Major of UTMB. A couple other names here just before we wrap up. Robin Lesh was 5th here last year. Juliette Soleil, only 26 years old, from Australia, coming all the way over to do battle here. And Molly Seidel, super interesting. Sam Lewis, we didn't mention, from Idaho. Really good sort of sub-ultra and sort of 50K type athlete. So we spent a ton of time on the 100K, less so on the 50K. Both races are can't miss this weekend. And you and our good friend Keith Byrne, who's going to join us here in a second, are going to be on the live stream to share this story throughout race day on Saturday. Closing comments from Hayden and Emily. Thank you guys so much for coming in. It was super fun to connect with you both and chat. Anything you want to leave the audience with? Yeah,
I mean, just one thing. I've been out on these trails and incredible community effort getting them all like super ready. The Poison Oak is on fire out there, so be safe. But over and over again, like the community shows up. As much as you feel the energy here, it's the community that shows up at each aid station and shows up for trail work and gets things done. It's a little, different on the rest of the world, but here, like if there's a problem in the way, like the community's called on and they're going to come up with a solution, and the trails are ready for Saturday.
Awesome. Do you have any responsibilities on Saturday? Are you doing crewing and pacing and stuff? Or
Well, no, I'll just be everywhere cheering. I'm so excited.
Awesome. Us too.
Yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to the organization. I mean, I was here at this event last year, and then seeing what they've done this year, they've improved on last year. And I think like that's the thing, is they're improving every year. Like UTMB, Ironman, Hoka are coming together. They're putting their brains together. Catherine and Michelle Paletti are here to support the race. A lot of like the head people at Ironman are here to support the race, which, I think it's really cool that they are here. They're supporting it, and they're trying to find ways to improve the event. Mm-hmm. They're early on in this whole UTMB World Series thing, but they're actually improving at an incredible rate, and they're really, trying. And so I think we need to give them credit for that. It's, an incredible team that they have around them. And I do think that we're going to see constant improvement. They made some announcements recently with the Hoka UTMB partnership that are going to do a lot for the sport and for a lot for this series. I can't explain all the details yet, but it's really exciting. And they're going to be investing money into what the athletes want, meaning drug testing and different things like that.
Awesome.
Which I think's a huge step forward, and I'm really excited to hear that.
Yeah, cool to have, some of the top brass from both UTMB and Ironman, but also from Hoka here at the race too. So big weekend ahead. Thank you both for joining us. Keith Byrne is making his way up here.
I have a question.
Okay.
A couple of people asked, where can they find the interviews that you keep mentioning?
Yeah, so the interviews are going to be clips taken from the interview that are actually going to be in the live stream. So yeah, pay attention to the live stream, and you'll hear from some of the top athletes that I was privileged enough to do some interviewing with today.
Rad. Thank you so much. Speaking of live streaming, Keith Byrne, please make your way to the set. Hayden, Emily, we'll see you guys
Thank
later.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience, Keith.
Oh man, I could listen to those lovely people all day. So instead of doing the YouTube, I get to have it live, and I think people would love to pay to sit in the Freetrail kind of like auditorium, kind of listening. That would be like a good VIP competition for the future, Debo.
How do you think we did? Did we give you some good material to bring into the live stream this weekend?
Oh, loads. And we kind of talking about the golden ticket. I already feel like I've won a golden ticket this weekend because I've been given the privilege to sit alongside Hayden Hawks all day on Saturday talking about the race. So I'm already excited about what's coming ahead. So yeah, and I was also joking, because I'm committed to doing the Lavaredo by UTMB every year. It's the same weekend as Western States. I never get to come here.
They have to change that, dude. I have tried to advocate that myself.
But it's okay. Now we have a fantastic mini Western States this weekend. So finally, after all these years, the 50th year of Western States, I finally get to Auburn. So I'm excited.
I remember having an email exchange with, what's the woman's name from Lavaredo? Christina. Yeah. And saying, you have to move Lavaredo back 1 week, because then all of us who enjoy Western States as professionals working and crewing, pacing, absorbing, can then leave the U.S., which is, of course, the 4th of July week after Western States, and go have an Italian vacation. And she won't change the date of the race simply to satisfy my vacation requests.
Well, I do know that there is a complexity around the summer holidays in Italy. So in Italy, summer begins on the 1st of July. And so the week before the 1st of July is a window. And so since 2012, they have been working with the Cortina kind of municipality to make that event. And so in effect, they've extended the summer in Cortina by a week, and they have an amazing event now.
It's so funny, Keith. I remember those early videos of Sebastian Chagnon where you were crewing for him at Lavaredo
Yes.
and like Lizzie Hawker and stuff. So maybe first, you've obviously been on the show before. You did one of our shows during UTMB week, but for those who don't know, just maybe do a quick introduction to who you are and, you know, add a face and name to the voice as you become
it's good. I love it. If I'm doing the UTMB commentary with you and Corinne, for example, and then someone's always writing in the chat, who's the British guy? And I'm okay with that because actually the British guy just gets to hang out with all of these wonderful people. And I've never been on the podium of a trail running race, which is fine. But I have. So first of all, I have been lucky enough to work inside the sport for over 20 years. So I was there when the UTMB began in the beginning. I've worked on Lavaredo every year since 2008. And so, and actually Hayden and I, we've been bonding today, as we should do, getting ready for the weekend. And Hayden said, you interviewed me at the end of the Lavaredo in 2018 at the finish line. And you were asking me about my strategy in the race, and it was all about never give up. And he said, then Hoka took that, and that was a soundbite that was rolled out. So he remembers that very vividly. He remembers it better than I do. But so I'm just lucky enough to be on the other side of the sport and being part of, I prefer being at the start-finish line, high-fiving every finisher. But I also love being in the live kind of environment in the studio. And I like this idea now about having, elite athletes in the studio, and like this is going to be Hayden's first time doing that.
Yeah.
But as you've already heard, he's not struggling to speak.
He's
so
a
it's
natural,
not,
yeah.
Exactly. So what I would say to the audience for the weekend, first of all, Western States and Billy Yang, it's a challenging environment to get signal and content. The UTMB live team have been working for the last few months to try. I think they've cracked the code a little bit. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be UTMB Chamonix.
Yeah.
But we're stepping into the right direction. And so I'm just excited. I'm kind of just involved. I get sucked in. I'm a fan of the sport. And somehow, they haven't found somebody to replace me yet.
Yeah, it's so funny. I remember the first time that I sat with you during one of the UTMB live broadcasts, probably like 7-8 years ago at this point. It was the first year that Xavier Thevenard won the race. I want to say it was like 2015. So I guess probably 9 years ago.
Yeah.
And I recall they had the still camera on the Flagère, the top of the final climb before you make the victory lap into Chamonix. They just had the still camera pointing back toward the Tête Avant to try and watch Xavier. Now you have somebody with the leader with a GoPro the entire time. So maybe just with that being your prompt, if you could say a few words about this evolution in live stream broadcasting, because it seems like at least in the last 3 or 4 years, we've gone on sort of up into the right trajectory.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you talk about there's pivotal moments in the sport. And I think what UTMB has done with live transmission of the sport. And so from the beginning, I remember Randy Gaylord and I in 2015, the first year we were doing UTMB live at the race in Chamonix, it was a fixed camera in the aid station. So once the leaders has gone through, we'd say, okay, we'll be back in 3 hours at the next aid station. But now, as you know, it's wall-to-wall coverage. So when there's an ad break for a minute, we're off to the bathroom, grabbing a coffee, grabbing a croissant, and we're back on. And now, if you're new to the sport, that is your expectation. And whatever race is going on, I see the chat. Hey, is the live stream this weekend? So the good news is Canyons, and it's an evolving race. I see that. It's its 10th year. The UTMB live team now we're going to have live coverage at the start. We're going to be up at China Wall for the 100K. That's going to be our focus throughout the day. We are going to be also at the start of the 50K. We have cameras at all of the aid stations. We've got drones and we've got mountain bike cameras. And this is always the most popular question on the community, and Corinne's not here, so I'm gonna fly the flag for Corinne in her absences. Yes, we will have 2 different teams dedicated at the front of the women's and the front of the men's race. So so that one's happening. So there's a lot of the secrets to the formula that works in Chamonix that will be here this weekend, and this is for a global audience. It's an opportunity, if you've never been to the Western States, to kind of get an idea of the course. Imagine drone footage at some of these courses. It's going to be like, wow, great advertisement. I met today, I think her name is Alice, I think they rotate the mayor here in Auburn every year.
Yes.
And she was telling me how, hey, first of all, she did her best Dylan Bowman impression. She went, hey, welcome to Auburn, the endurance capital of the world. And I was like,
It's the brand,
yeah.
dude.
And then she went, hey, you know, we're working on becoming a partner with Chamonix. So, yeah.
Like a
Auburn,
sister city.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah. So she said, I met the mayor. So there is what I love about this place, and I know why everybody loves it now, is that you can feel there's something here. There's something special. 50 years of Western States. So it's almost a homage to the first ever 100-mile race. And let's not forget that.
So you feel it also, like where we began our broadcast
and
here
I've
today.
been walking around all day being Dylan Bowman going, welcome to Auburn, the endurance capital of the world. And
You're like,
don't
yes,
worry,
this is my
we're gonna-
California accent. Yes.
Hayden and we're going to be dropping that in all day on Saturday. And yeah, so for sure. So I think the good news for the audience, because it's been late in coming in terms of telling people what's going on this weekend, because it was hit and miss as to whether the team felt confident delivering the coverage with all of the technical challenges. In addition to that, this is a cool thing. All of the elite runners will be carrying a GPS tracker. And then the team back in Chamonix are going to be doing some magic with this content. So when we don't have actual images of the runners, there will be this amazing graphic showing where the runners are, how far apart they are. So the team are doing their best to keep the audience engaged and excited at what's going on. So hopefully they're not giving us a hard time in the chat. Hey, where's the footage?
Yeah.
So it's all about, you know, if you can't make it to Canyons this weekend, anywhere else in the world, and you're training for some other race, this is a good thing to watch and be motivated. And so this is another example of the evolution of the sport that we all love so much.
So probably people will be following at live.utmb.world.
Yeah,
right?
UTMB live. And the good news is, as we do now, is you can also engage with Hayden. So if you've got any questions for Hayden on Saturday, we're going to be, so when we have downtime, when we're not showing the interviews that we've already done today with the athletes, I think there's a lot going on. So we're trying to make sure that we ruin your Saturday, give you lots of reasons not to do anything other than watch Canyons, the 100K, the 50K, and the 100-mile finish as well.
And you're going to have to keep your cell phone handy because I'm going to be out on the course texting you on the on the ground updates.
Well, it's good, and we've got Topher and Kim. They're going to be doing the support crew.
Also great on-course
crew for
correspondence.
Katie Scheid.
Yeah.
And so so it's great that there's so many people here, and all of the teams are here. You know, the Adidas Terex team, so Emily's team, and hey, finally. Huge fan of Emily, finally met her, so I'm super excited about that today. So so the Terex team's here in force, I see them. Yeah. So and just listening to you all talking about the athletes, there's so many sub-stories, lots of reasons to pay attention this weekend.
That's what I was going to kind of ask you as we begin to get close to winding down here about like any storylines that you're looking forward to sharing with the global trail running world or any athletes that you're looking forward to watching.
Well, I mean, I think you all nailed so many of the subplots, who's going head to head, et cetera, completely aside. I was like, right, if I get an opportunity to talk about something else that's going on here that you haven't mentioned, there's a challenge. There's got to be something. Let's talk about adaptive athletes. So last year at UTMB, there was Amy Palmero Winter. She's a Hoka athlete. Mm-hmm. Amy's done, I think, Western States in just over 27 hours. Mm-hmm. Amy didn't finish Canyons last year, the 100-miler. She's back this year. She wants to have both Canyons 100 miles, Western State 100 miles, and UTMB 100 miles in her bag. So she also didn't finish that. So complete different story. The adaptive athletes, there's a lot of them out there now, more and more of them coming into our sport. And so, I was just talking to Amy before, and it's like, yeah, this is a cool story because we're going to be focusing on the front of the race, the golden tickets. But there's also everyone who's out on the course this weekend, like any race, everyone's on the course for lots and lots of different reasons. And a lot of those stories, we'll probably find out some of them in the chat on Saturday. We love that coming from the community. And so that's my story. So all the Emily and Hayden covered, and you covered what's going to go on at the front. There's so many stories there. We're looking forward to those unfolding live, and you see people, doing well, some people suffering, rebuilding. You're going to see that now. You're going to see the overtakes. We love to see the pass. Yeah. So those things potentially we're going to see on Saturday now on the UTMB live.
What time do you go live on Saturday morning?
We'll be up and running at 4:30 a.m. here local time, and we're ready for the start at 5 a.m. One thing you didn't talk about was the early bus transfers up there. So I'm like,
it's like a 3 a.m. departure. Isn't it?
and I think that's not a nice road to go on. But
Yeah.
so good luck to all the athletes surviving the transfer up to the start.
It's so funny that China Wall staging area
Yes.
where the start happens for the 100K on Saturday is a parking lot that I've slept in a number of times when I was dedicating my entire life force to trying to have my perfect day on the Western States 100. I would frequently drive up here from the Bay Area and camp out in the China Wall parking lot. So it's a special place for me. I'd sleep in the back of my Jeep in those days, and now the athletes will use it as their kickoff point for a 100-kilometer journey back to just outside the window behind us here where the finish line is going to be set up here any minute.
So the way we're going to pan out on Saturday in a nutshell is we're going to kick off with the 100K start. Then we're going to move on to the 50K start. Then we will be back here live at the finish line to celebrate the winners of the 100 miles. And then we'll be out on the course for the rest of the day following the front of the 100K race. And then we'll have the last few kilometers down from the river, that brutal finish up the way here. And so there's a lot going on between 4:30 a.m. in the morning through till about 7 p.m. in the evening. So we'll be showing the top 5 podium finishes in all of those 3 races. So there's plenty of reasons to not do anything on Saturday other than tune into UTMB Live here.
Heck yeah. Well, I will be watching for many hours myself on Saturday. Any closing comments for the viewing audience here, Keith, before we wind down?
No, I mean, other than just to say, Auburn truly is the endurance capital of the world.
All right, Keith, well, thank you so much for coming in. A big thank you to everybody who tuned in and watched. Hope it was fun and entertaining for you. Just a reminder, we will be back here, the Placer County Land Trust, in studio at 11 a.m. tomorrow, where we're going to be doing our final prediction show for the 100K and 50K. I'm sure there'll be some new storylines evolving in the next 15, 16 hours, whatever it is between now and then, that we'll share on tomorrow's show as well. And then as soon as Keith and Hayden are done broadcasting on Saturday afternoon, we'll be back here for a post-race wrap-up show as well. A big thank you to our man on the 1s and 2s, Mr. Ryan Thrower. Hope your knees feel okay after squatting for 90 minutes. Thank you to Harmony behind the scenes. Thank you to Keith Byrne, Hayden Hawks, and Emily Hawgood for all joining us here today. Hope you all enjoyed it. We'll see you back here in studio tomorrow.